Set your camera rigged. Camera's all good to go. Throttle controlled auto. Roger, let's go now. Sounds good. Ready? Getting close. Good. Sure feel like we're going the wrong way.
Okay, we're doing the installation of the chassis protectors by Yoshimura for the Ninja 300. And this piece, the one you're really trying to get to, is contingent on removing all the other stuff. So it's a lot of body stuff just to get to the engine, which has its drawbacks. But you know, at least I'm getting to know the bike a little bit. So basically what I recommend if you're going to do anything like this, get the service manual. This is the service manual. Makes it all pretty easy. I recommend having this so you don't have to like spelunk and try to figure out what everything is and break something because you didn't see a screw or whatever. So this you can download from somewhere. I recommend just you know, buying the paper one or get the PDF if you can. Those are the middle fairings, and the lights are integrated, so you have to remove those switches at the end. It's pretty simple. I mean, once you remove all this other junk. Okay, so here's a shiny new bike, shiny new Ninja 300 with no fairings. Now's an ideal time to clean that exhaust, assuming the fingerprints aren't burned in already. Looks kind of cool as a naked. Looks kind of cool. Now, one thing is when you remove the light switches, you got to press down on this tab really hard. If you can do this with your fingers, you have the strength of a wild bear, I would say. This is it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Yoshimura Chassis Protectors. I had to order, or had to get, a floor jack because when you remove the bolts, these bolts, the engine gets loose, and apparently they want you to remove everything at once. I have to support it with a floor jack. Didn't have a floor jack till right now. I guess I saved some money installing a lot of this stuff myself. So I look at it that way. Every time I need to buy a part, I just buy it, and then next time I'm doing something, you know, chances are I'll have the part, and you learn a lot. I think you get more mileage from buying parts and doing stuff yourself than paying someone else, if you can possibly avoid paying someone else. So there's the floor jack. This was such a giant pain in the butt that I didn't really even document too much, but let's just say it's tricky, because what you have to do is, to get this middle fairing off, you have to remove the lower fairing, and then you have to remove this thing, and then that little thing, and you have to remove this inner fairing. Then you can take this off. How's that? The biggest problem I found was assembly and removing these engine bolts, because you need a floor jack for the engine. I didn't have a floor jack, so I had to go out and buy one, 40 something bucks. And so basically what I did is I propped up the engine underneath the oil cooler, and that keeps the engine from dropping too much when you remove the bolts. Now it may not drop, it may. I did notice mine shifted slightly, and what it does is it causes these bolts here to go out of alignment, or the holes. So the floor jack helps with that. The other thing is, when you're assembling this and you're trying to twist those to 51 foot-pounds torque, the back nut just spins freely. And then how do you get something back there to stop it, especially with that much torque? It's really tricky. What I ended up having to do is I ended up having to drop the radiator a little bit, unscrew these 4 bolts. When you do that, it tilts forward and it gives you just enough room to get a 14mm open-end wrench in behind there. And then there's so much torque on it, you basically have to let the wrench keep going until it hits the frame, and then it's like a self-stop, and then you can torque it down. And doing that for each of these takes a unique and very clever way to get back there. You can also just hold it, which I did on one bolt, and that was really hard to do because it's a lot of pressure. The good thing about the install here is Kawasaki has already pre-marked the area where you have to drill. So on the back of the fairing, there's these little like circles with a little hole marker that's exactly where you drill. So you don't actually need to know where to drill. You just look at the fairings on the inside. You make a little 1/8 inch pilot hole, drill through it, and then use a hole saw. When you're refining the hole that you made, use this. It's basically a Dremel rotary tool with the sanding bit on it, and that's perfect for, you can actually open the hole on the bike. That's totally fine, and you can either vacuum it out later or use a blow duster thingy. Those are the biggest things to look for. If you're going to do these Yoshimura frame sliders, get a floor jack, make sure you have an open-ended wrench, and don't worry about figuring out where the drill holes are. Kawasaki's made that easy for you, and you're good to go there. And there it is. That's the slider on the left and the right. Alright.